What is up, swimmers and swammers? Welcome back to another episode of the SwimSwam Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York, joined by Sophie Kaufman, my fellow Brooklynite, and the Dirty Devil himself, Brendan Burns, coming to us from outside of Philadelphia. Thank you both for joining once again for a breakdown. I thought this week was going to be chill. It was the complete opposite in terms of huge swimming news. We got a ton of big stories this week. So right off the bat, I looked at my phone on Saturday, did not think anything was going to happen. And of course, Lukas Martens broke the 400 free world record that was held by Paul Biederman, the supersuited 340.07 that was 1/100th faster than Ian Thorpe's legendary record. Lukas Martens threw down 3:39.96, first man under 340 at the Swim Open Stockholm in Stockholm, Sweden. Thoughts on this crazy world record that I don't know if anyone expected. I'm curious if Lukas himself even expected this. But Brendan, I'm going to throw this one to you first. What was your initial reaction to seeing this legendary supersuited record go down?
I mean, just kind of off the bat, just seeing the 339 finally happen when we least expected it was, I think, kind of on brand for the year that we've had so far. Maybe at a World Championships. Obviously, he won the 400 free gold medal in Paris last summer. He's been on a bunch of podiums in the 400 freestyle, but it's just really impressive that he was able to do it at a meet that not a ton of people were paying attention to. And hopefully he can drop that mark even further at the World Championships this summer.
Sophie, initial reactions from you for this world record?
Yeah, I also didn't expect it. I know, on the previous breakdown, we had kind of talked about how the mid-distance and distance free field at this meet was going to be really exciting, but I didn't think it was going to be world record exciting. And, there's so many different ways that this is like a significant record. He breaks the supersuited world record. It had been on the book since 2009. He breaks a time barrier going under 340. Paul Biederman is from the same region in Germany that he's in. So there's that significance, that tie as well. It just keeps going. And then, the way he did it, going out as fast as he did, flipping out a 147 and being able to hold on against Biederman's back half. I watched the race video after, and it was just wild to see.
Yeah, you brought up so many good points. And again, I think the fact that it's staying in Germany, this world record is staying in Germany, is pretty crazy unto itself. Lukas Martens has a picture of himself as a kid with Paul Biederman. And that the fact that record has stood for so long, it withstood Sun Yang, it withstood Park Tae-hwan, Mac Horton, Sam Short, Ahmed Hafnaoui. So many guys have gotten to that 340 barrier and seemingly come close to that record, but to have another German be the one to break that legendary supersuited record, pretty astounding. And yeah, just like you said, Sophie, going out in 147.5, 147 low, that is some serious speed. And I'm hoping he kind of broke the floodgates for this event, and we start seeing a lot more people going out in maybe 148, 147 territory, because I think that is a race, especially at big meets like a World Championships, you don't see guys going out as aggressively because they want to make sure they have that back end. And maybe we will start seeing people taking it out a little more aggressively now that 340 barrier is finally broken. I also thought it was really interesting that we put out an article about like the percentage of where the world record stands and how much it's been broken by over the last, I think, 2 decades or so. And the 400.
I think Barry set the date as like when Ian Thorpe broke the world record. So since 2002.
Yeah.
If it's 2002, then I think it's Martens' birthday. There was some reasoning behind the date. I don't remember it now, but yeah.
So yeah, in the last 13 years, like how much each world record has gone down by percent. And the men's 400 free out of every individual long course world record has been broken the least. I'm curious what you guys think of that, as well as what you think the next likely supersuited record will be to go down. Just because I to me, that's a testament to how good Ian Thorpe was, is that this record has only been dropped essentially 1/10 of a second since 2002, right? And uh, again, Ian Thorpe was insane. Everyone in our comments talks about him going 341 in a brief, right? And at age 15 or 16 or however old he was. But the fact that this world record has only been broken by or only been lowered by 1/10 for the last 13 years is pretty astounding. And I'm gonna say a lot of people were kind of downing Daniel Whiffen in the comments today. He just dropped a 740 in the 800 free in Ireland, and he was disappointed because he thought he would be faster, and he made it very public, or he was very vocal about the fact that he wants to get 4 world records. He currently has 1, assuming that means the 800 and 1500 in both short course and long course. And people were like downing him for that. They were like, man, just like quit shooting for times. You're too obsessed with times. And it's like, I don't know. And people were also very skeptical that he was capable of breaking the 800 free world record. I'm going to say that's the next one to go down, because we are in a distance renaissance right now. I think people are breaking all kinds of barriers, and we've seen, a 738 from Whiffen. That's the current European record. And I think people are going to really keep pushing those distance boundaries as this quad goes, and especially coming off of an Olympic Games. The 200 free is also seeing a renaissance of its own, but 141 seems further to me than 732 at this point. Sophie, what do you think?
I think it's hard. I think that the men's 800 free is probably the most difficult world record on the books, but you think about, okay, well, if it's going to be the next to go down, you have to think about the field that's chasing that world record right now. And I think you make a really good point that this is the men's distance field that you want chasing that world record. They've gotten so fast and they just keep pushing each other, it seems like, to new heights. That world record is really fast, though. And I think I would be inclined to think that somebody like David Popovich will get the 200 free world record first.
Mm-hmm. It's a fair argument. Brendan, are you a tiebreaker in this, or do you have another record that you think will go down first?
So I don't want to take you to task for this, Coleman, but I am going to hard disagree with you. I think the 800 free is about. I took to Twitter this weekend when the 400 free world record went down. There are only 4 superseded world records left on the men's side, but I think the 800 will be the absolute last one. We have a world-class distance field. No one's denying it. Many contenders from around the world. But the best of the best are still 5 seconds off of that world record. It's not like they're 2. It's not like they're 3. I mean, 5 seconds is a good chunk of change. That's pretty close to anywhere between 5 and 10 meters away from that world record line. I think the 200 free, Popovich, he kind of proved himself last summer, even though he didn't go the times that he wanted. Getting that first individual Olympic gold medal is obviously a huge achievement, but specifically in his career arc of this kind of team prodigy that broke the world record in the 100, and now he's kind of gearing up in the 100, 200, and the 50. We saw him go under 22. First swimmer ever to go under 22, under 47, and under 143. He just has incredible range. Mm-hmm. And then also a world record that I think is going to be broken very, very soon, 200 backstroke. Hubi Kos, Olympic gold medalist from last summer, he went 134 in the 200-yard backstroke, and he's not really a short course guy. He's verbatim said he's still learning how to swim short course. He's better at long course. And I think that he's just going to take a wrecking ball to that 200 back world record before the Los Angeles Olympics. In the 50 freestyle, I think adding the 50s has helped. I don't really have a lot of hard analysis on how that helps the 50 free world record get broken, but I think with this renewed emphasis on sprinting, now that the 50s stroke are a legitimate Olympic events, I think that will help the 50 freestyle world record get broken.
Agreed. Man, it's just so exciting to hear your analysis of all this and to think every supersuited record has a chance to get broken, I think, in this quad. When you look at 200 back, Hubi Kos, 50 free, I mean, people have been knocking on that door for a long, long time, and it has stood the test of time, obviously, but our commenters were saying like, oh, it's safe, like no one's close. And it's like, I don't think it is. And we've said this for a long time, but again, the potential is definitely there. I think there's so much young talent in the men's 200 freestyle. I don't doubt that it can get broken. It's just hard for me to conceptualize like a 40 going out and a 49 and then coming back in a 52 versus like a 345 and then a 346. To me, for some reason, that's like easier to be like, yeah, I think someone can do that. But again, I think all those records were getting closer. Then the women's 200 fly on the women's side, summer looks good.
I mean, and then you get to like those two men's relay records, at least in long course, that have been there, and it's like, I think that the men's 4x2 it feels like it's been living on borrowed time for so long, especially when you think about like Great Britain's squad has tried twice and been more than that, twice at the Olympics and been so close. It's just like, that is the one that like I want to pick, but then you also think, okay, well, it's not just about one guy, right? You really need all four of them on. And like, when is the next time that you're going to get all four of them focused on a meet? Like, is it going to be LA? I think one of these super suited records is going to go down before then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, agreed. And especially when you look at like, where is everyone trending? A lot harder to get four guys who are like all trending in the right direction, or especially I think coming off of the Paris Olympics, that British squad, we'll see how they're trending this season. I think James Guy has put up some promising swims. I'm not sure where Tom Dean is. Matt Richards seems to be doing well as well. I don't really know what's going on with Duncan Scott, but it's like, it's hard to predict what all of these guys are going to do. So yeah, hopefully in a few years, or maybe even after this summer, we have even less supersuited records on the books. All right, Brendan, you mentioned it. Let's go next to the 50s of stroke are now Olympic events. This was huge news at the beginning of the week. Again, I don't think anyone kind of saw this coming, even though we had reported on it, I think back in August or September, but it wasn't really on anyone's radar. But wow, I think this will definitely prolong some careers. We're going to see gold medalists in the 50 fly, 50 back, and 50 breast on both the men's and women's sides. Your, again, immediate reactions. I think there's a lot more pushback or just cons that were raised than maybe a lot of other topics. I think people felt a lot of ways about these 50s, but Brendan, your immediate reactions to a whole lot more gold medals for swimming.
There are many takeaways to this decision. I think many more takeaways than filling in the men's 800 and women's 1500 in Tokyo. This is like a paradigm shift in the sport. I think this really has a lot of ripple effects that we could spend probably close to an hour talking about, but to specifically address the criticism of its addition in the Olympics, I've just yet to see a criticism or a side on the take of the criticism of adding the Olympics that isn't something where they're just upset that sprinters are having their day in the sun now. I think a lot of people are just upset because they're similar to myself, where they're a 200 flyer, a 200 backstroker, they're a distance swimmer, and they've always kind of looked down on sprinting and said they don't deserve to be Olympic events. And a lot of this just like the sacred nature of swimming. And I just kind of roll my eyes at it because it doesn't really it doesn't really hold any weight. I don't think it helps grow the sport. I don't think it really helps anyone. I think the addition of the 50s, as we mentioned, it'll extend a lot of careers. And I think that, now that they're legitimate events that all countries will have to seriously consider, I think it'll help grow the sport, because kids are not signing up for swim teams to take their hand at a 200 fly, but everyone loves summer swimming, and that's what summer swimming is basically founded on. And unfortunately, the GOAT of our sport had some takes on it, kind of downplaying summer swimming. But if we're having some serious issues with retention and growing our sport, and if we want to reverse that, then this is the best way to do it. And I think it's now on us, as in America. I think the high school federation should add 50s of stroke. I think the NCAA should consider adding 50s of stroke. And I think that we should really go all in on this versus kind of dragging our heels and holding the sport back.
I like it. Sophie, what do you think?
Yeah, this was one of the swimming hot topics that I frankly didn't care what happened either way. So now that it's here, I think it's all about how they implement it. They dropped this announcement, and I think that there wasn't a lot of follow-up to any of the kind of logical questions that come after this about, is the roster size going to go up? What's the length of the meet? Are we doing 200 semifinals still? Like, those are all questions that I think need to be answered before I decide whether I feel like good about this or like bad about it. I think that there are a lot of pros to this. Like Brendan mentioned, you can see a lot of careers get extended. Hopefully this is something that helps grow the sport and keep interest in it, even as we stare down the possibility of like a 10-day meet, and how are people really going to pay attention for that long or be interested? So I think that there are still questions to be answered, but I think that just to say that it's like all bad news and this is the worst decision that the IOC could have made is a little ridiculous. I am interested to see like what they're going to consider like a success in this way, because they said that it's on the schedule for LA 2028, but they didn't really say anything about if their 50s are on the schedule forever now, or like just for this one and then we'll see. So I'm curious about that piece of it as well.
Yeah, still a lot of unanswered questions. Let's be frank, Michael Phelps doesn't like this because now someone is going to win 9 gold medals. I think, someone's going to come in, a Gretchen Walsh or something, and there's 4 relays, 3 single gender plus a mixed relay. There are now 50s of stroke. Like some sprinter is going to come in, and as Brendan alluded to, they don't do as much yardage in training. They don't work as hard as, maybe a middle distance guy. They're going to win 9 gold medals. And then Phelps's record's going to get broken. I think that's why he's salty about it. But it is interesting to me that I was appalled when they added the mixed medley relay as an Olympic event in favor of the stroke 50s, simply because the mixed medley relay is about as many medals as the stroke 50s. If every team had, I think 2 alternates, it is as many. And so it didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time, because this was an event that had just been introduced in 2015 and they added like period to swimming. And they added it in the Olympics in 2021. So I'm very curious to see how scheduling goes. I would love to see them drop semis for 200s. I was talking to my brother and he's like, I think they should just drop semis altogether. And I was like, well, I think for 100s and 50s, like, it is legitimate. And I think it would be really rough at an Olympics to see, like, a superstar have a bad prelims and then be off a little in prelims and then miss the final altogether. But this is what used to happen. I mean, semis are a fairly new addition to Olympic swimming. They used to have a B final at the Olympics, which I'm curious if they might bring that back if they get rid of semifinals. But I feel like there should be some changes to the schedule, because I love swimming. I love Olympic swimming. I don't feel like we need this much of it. Like when people from other sports complain that there are now too many medals in swimming, I kind of get it. Like it seems that there is an aspect of diluting the swimming medals at an Olympics. Like I'm all for making swimming bigger, but I would love to see it get bigger outside of the Olympic sphere as well. And I know that's kind of another topic, but overall, I'm very excited to see how this goes. Sarah Sjostrom and Adam Peaty were hyped, so I was hyped for them. We will talk about them during Sink or Swim in a bit, but yeah, really, really interesting to see how this is going to move forward because, as Sophie mentioned, we have a lot of unanswered questions. But I think the trickle down will be fascinating to see because now sprinting is like a very, very legitimate Olympic goal. So yeah. Any other thoughts or comments on stroke 50s in LA 2028?
I mean, it gives Keely McEwen another thing to check off her list, right? She swept at the World Championships. Now she's going to sweep backstroke at the Olympics with 50, 100, and 200.
Man, no kidding. I mean, just the possibilities are so much more now, right? Especially for those superstar athletes who have historically performed quite well at the Olympics. A stroke sweep at the Olympics would be pretty nuts, especially at the first time that they're introduced, that the 50s of stroke are introduced at the Olympics. LA is going to be a good one, man. All right. Next up. So one unanswered question we had was, will there be Olympic trials cuts for the 50s of stroke in the United States? And someone who is probably going to have to deal with that now is Greg Meehan, because he was introduced as the new national team director for USA Swimming. He's been at Stanford. He's been the head coach for the Stanford women for 13 seasons. He won NCAA team titles there. He was the Olympic head coach for the women for Team USA in 2016. He's had a pretty storied career as a Cardinal. And so now he will be our new national team director. Sophie, I'm tossing this one to you first. Thoughts on this hire for USA Swimming, and what are you hoping to see maybe out of the first few months or just through this summer with Greg Meehan as the head of the national team?
Yeah, I think it's in terms of what they were looking for, he's someone that you can't really argue with. They were looking for somebody, this had kind of turned it into an administrative position under Lindsay Matinko, and then there was a big push when she resigned in October to kind of return this position to more of like more coaching, and they were specifically looking for somebody with a ton of domestic and international experience. And Greg Meehan really fits that profile. He's had so much success with the Stanford women, and also, at other positions where he coached on the Cal men's staff before that. And then internationally as well, he's had a hand in so many Olympic successes. He's been on the coaching staff for 3 straight Olympic Games for the United States. So he was one of the names that was kind of floating around, and all of them fit that bill to some extent. And now that they've gone with him, you're hoping that in the plan that he had to presumably present as part of his job process, that they saw something there that they really liked and really responded to. And I think that you're hoping that coaches and the rest of USA Swimming, not just the board or the task force that he presented to, respond to that as well. Part of bringing in such an experienced coach is the hope that I think that you're going to bring some of the trust of the coaches back to the organization. And so now that will be one of his big jobs. And I think that's something that you're really hoping to see kind of start to happen right away, even before we get answers about qualifying times for Olympic stroke 50s or any of that.
That's a really great point you brought up, Sophie. Is just, I don't think USA Swimming is in stellar standing with its member base and certainly with its coaches right now. I think they have wanted to see some sweeping changes for a while, and certainly see USA Swimming make a right turn from the road they were going down. We still do not have a CEO 8 months later, which seems problematic, but at least now we have, what I think would qualify as a pretty trustworthy national team director, who can hopefully lead this national team and the international swimming results of the United States in a positive direction. Brendan, your thoughts or reactions to this hire for USA Swimming?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the hire. As Sophie kind of touched upon, he's had success at really all levels, both with men and women. And he's someone that, they didn't really roll the dice. This isn't really a big gamble, I don't think, with Greg Meehan. This is someone that's been successful for well over a decade. He's been successful at the NCAA level. He's been successful at the international and Olympic level. I think it's someone that, this isn't really something new, but he is going to, I think, restore trust within the USA Swimming voter base. And on kind of a silly note, I'm really relishing that all the Greg Meehan haters are really upset right now. And I have no sympathy for them. Greg's a really great coach. He's a really great guy, and I'm really happy that he was chosen as the new director.
It almost upsets me how much the narrative has changed around Greg, because, and I guess that's sports. People are fair weather fans of athletes, coaches, and beyond. But he got a lot of hate for, I think, post 2021, and it, it was. I think it really was, and it kind of became like his aura for a while in our comment section, at least, right? That like people were pretty negative toward him for quite a while. And then, Stanford has a good year and people are like, oh yeah, Greg's a great coach. And then he gets hired as a national team director and they're like, great hire. And it's like, it's a little bit of a stark contrast to me. And it just upsets me that our commenters are so fickle.
The shortest memory of all time.
They really do. They really do. But yeah, I think this is, Brendan, as you said, like a safe hire. And I think that's what USA Swimming needed for this position. I feel like, making a shocking hire or taking a chance on someone, hopefully that will come for the CEO position, because I think they've kind of made a little more safe hires in the past, and so far hasn't worked great. But I think in this position, you want someone who we have a history with, who you can trust, and who you already know has a vision, and can think both short term and long term, and have success with that vision, right? It's not like we're asking Greg to reinvent the wheel. I think people kind of want a reinvention of the wheel for the CEO position, right? I mean, again, member base would like some changes. I don't think anyone wants changes with the national team, what their goals are and what their priorities are, right? I think the national team, they want to win gold medals, and that's staying the same. And Greg has proven that he knows how to manage athletes to have the most success, or peak success when it matters the most. We might not see the national team stay for ACCs the whole meet, but I think we will see them perform on the biggest stage.
But they did stay, push came to shove. Conversations were had and they stayed.
Dude, he even got hate for that. And then like 1 month later, everyone's like, Greg Meehan, great coach. It's like, this was always the plan. Anyway, sorry, I just had to throw that in there. But yeah, I I like this hire. I am curious if you guys have any thoughts or potential guesses for who might be replacing Greg Meehan as the women's head coach at Stanford.
It's such a unique job. It's such a unique university. It's obviously a tremendous place with a storied history of swimming and an incredible opportunity for whoever does end up getting the coaching job. But it does come with a lot of quirks in the same way that working at an Ivy League school does. The academic rigor and also just the university structure. I think this was outlined in an article by you guys. And I mean, good luck to whoever takes it. It's an incredible opportunity, but yeah, I really don't know who is going to take this position.
Yeah, I like that you brought up those things because I've visited Stanford a few times. I've, done pieces with their swim team. I've spent some time with Greg, and like it does just seem like a very unique place. It doesn't operate as like a more traditional university does, like an Indiana university, for example. It's like the academics are a little bit different. I think just the people you have walking in the door are wired a little differently. But then just the culture, but almost the expectation is a little bit different. And so I think it is a very unique position. So it will be interesting to see who we end up hearing having interest in this job, or just who ends up getting this job. Sophie, any guesses?
Do you think they'll combine?
I don't.
No, I think both.
I don't think so.
I mean, both of those jobs are endowed jobs, so I don't think so. Just from like a university perspective, that would be really surprising to me. And I think that we were talking about a surprising or a safe hire for the CEO job for USA Swimming. And Stanford doesn't really seem to me to be the kind of place that's going to take a risk on this job. You want somebody who has proven experience that they can do this and coach high-level athletes. This is a school that, on top of all the quirks that have already been mentioned, really cares about the Director's Cup. And so is going to want somebody who can keep or raise the bar that's been set for the Stanford women from this season onward. On deck, you've got Coach Robinson, but there's, who came from Northwestern and has that head coaching experience from Northwestern. But there were rumors when she took the job at Stanford that she doesn't want to be a head coach anymore, and that's why she took that job. So has her mentality changed? Because otherwise, that seems like an obvious go-to. But if she doesn't want that job, that kind of opens up the possibilities in a really big way, because then you're looking, across the country for somebody who isn't totally ensconced in their position, but still has the type of experience that you're looking for to keep the Stanford women where they are after kind of continuing to exceed expectations this season.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm thinking about this combined thing a little more. It would be interesting. I think, they took a chance with Dan Schimmel when they hired him. He had been the head coach at the University of Hawaii. And I mean, he had proven himself as having success, but maybe not totally, getting athletes on the Olympic team. Like that sort of international success. And I think he's done a good job at with the Stanford men. They've been, I think, in the top 10 at NCAAs consistently since he's been there. They were second in ACCs this year in their first year in the conference. And he has experience coaching a combined program. I still don't think that's what they'll do, but just kind of playing this out in my head, I think that would be an interesting option that, especially, with the state of NCAA athletics right now, maybe that's appealing to Stanford. Just keeping it in-house in that way. Maybe they retain Coach Robinson as well as like maybe the head coach, but not really the head coach. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they're are any super obvious candidates right now, just because everyone seems to kind of be in their place. And I'm sure there are many coaches out there who would like an opportunity like this. But again, if you look at the coaches who have experience coaching Olympians and on the international stage, it seems like everyone is fairly happy with the position they're in now. So yeah, replacing Greg Meehan seems like a fairly tall task. So I guess we will see who they end up bringing down to the farm. But yeah, that was our, I think the three biggest news stories of the week that we're all kind of like, whoa. But
this month is half over, and we already have what feels like a full month's worth of newsworthy topics.
And it's April.
April 14th.
This is supposed to be like the down month for swimming.
Nope.
Yeah, no down months anymore. Which, that's good. That, I think that means our sports doing things. Some exciting news to look forward to at the end of the month / beginning of next month. Mr. Leon Marchand is making his return to racing at the Fort Lauderdale Pro Swim. He is back from Australia. He is in Austin, Texas, training with Bob Bowman. He's recovered from some injuries. Fingers crossed he's doing well. We're going to hopefully get a little taste of how he's doing at that Fort Lauderdale Pro Swim. You can answer this however you want, however you feel. It doesn't have to be times or results oriented, but what are you hoping to see from Leon in his return to racing and first races since, I guess, the World Cup Series this fall? Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, that report you mentioned, he shared that he's dealt with 2 different injuries since the games, a shoulder injury and a cracked rib. So on some level, you hope that his return to racing is a pretty boring one for him. He gets the preparation that he needs to. He doesn't re-injure himself. He does what he needs to do to get back into the swing of a professional swim season as he, presumably is gearing up for Worlds. I know he was talking in the fall about trying new things. Are we going to see that in Fort Lauderdale? See him take on some different types of events than what we usually do and maybe not touch the IMs or anything that we historically see. I think that would be interesting, but most importantly, you want him to get through this meet without hurting himself and feel good about how he felt in the water.
Yeah, priority number 1, just get him back healthy, happy. I guess I'm just a little surprised he's even like racing now. I hope he is fully recovered, but I would love to see him race some freestyle events. Like if he swims the 200 and 400 freestyle, I don't even care what he goes. It would just be fun to see him do, events we haven't seen him do a lot in long course. He is the fastest 500 freestyler of all time, so he can't totally suck theoretically in those mid-distance long course events. Brendan, any thoughts on what you would love to see from Leon?
Yeah, both of you guys have pretty much mentioned what I was going to say. Hopefully he's happy, healthy, back to racing. Fort Lauderdale, beautiful facility down there. The weather hopefully will be nice. It's a fantastic facility just to kind of get back into the swing of things. Really tough to be depressed when you're at a swim meet that's 1 block away from the beach. But you mentioned Coleman, 200, 400 freestyle. We've had a lot of 400 freestyle talk today, and maybe he responds to that world record somehow and goes a pretty good 400 free time.
Man, that'd be exciting. That'd be what we need. He's had some pretty good swimming locations this year. Australia, France, Austin, Texas, now Fort Lauderdale.
I think his last meet actually was in December. He went to a local meet in a French territory in the Indian Ocean called Réunion Island. It's a tiny little speck of an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Looked like, I saw on social media, looked like he had a kind of a meet and greet deal down there.
That's so awesome.
He's been traveling the world. He's been really enjoying it. Good for him.
Good for him. I mean, he's certainly earned it deserves it. But yeah, he's had a good swimming year in terms of locations, and hopefully we'll see him in Fort Lauderdale and get to catch up with him a little bit. And I assume he'll be tan. So excited to see Leon back in the competition pool. That is our main news for the week. Let's wrap up with a few quick sink or swims. First up on sink or swim, after his massive week at Hungarian Nationals, where Hubi Kos, new 50 back national record, new 100 back national record, 52 low. He was 156 in the 200 IM, 50.5 in the 100 fly. All sorts of great times for Hubi Kos, who I talked to right before the meet started. He was sick from NCAAs. He was like, I really don't know how this meet's going to go, but seems like he did fine. So sink or swim. Will Hubi Kos win multiple gold medals this summer in Singapore? Sophie?
Yeah, swim. Why not? He's looked so good this spring, and I think that he was most known for the 200 IM before he started training with Bob Bowman, and then his backstroke and now his butterfly has really exploded. I do think that his best chance for multiple golds is going to be in the backstroke. 200 back, 2023 world champion, Olympic champion. That kind of seems like he's got that locked up right now, especially because there are a bunch of question marks about what this men's backstroke field is going to look like at Worlds. Doesn't seem like Ryan Murphy is going to be competing this year. Question mark. We don't know. Thomas Chekon, we haven't seen him race yet. The Italian championships are happening now, but he's racing next week in the Australian Nationals to qualify for Worlds. So he's still a question mark. Hunter Armstrong, another question mark. So he looks really good, and it's not like he needs a field that has big holes in it to win, but I think that helps the case that he'll win multiple golds in Singapore.
Hard to argue with that, Brendan.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sophie. I'm going to sum it as well. I also think if Leon is looking at different events this summer and he enters the 200 IM, I think that could be his as well. I think he's talented enough to win that. Clearly, his performance at NCAAs last month indicated that he's really, he says that he's an IMer, but I think he's really talented at all three strokes, and he could end up surprising with maybe a 100 fly victory as well. So I think he is going to win multiple gold medals this summer.
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see what events he decides to swim. And again, scheduling plays a part in that too. I know 2 back and 2 IM were always like a conflict for Lochte. I don't know what the scheduling is like for this specific World Championships, but he might just swim the 3 backstrokes. He might throw in a butterfly. He might throw in a 2 IM. But I just from that 100 and 200 backstroke, as Sophie was kind of saying, I will swim this as well. He's looking great. If he's 52 low right now, doesn't have to go much faster to lock up a world title in that 100. And yeah, I think in the 200, it's his race to lose. I don't think anyone else is on his level in the world right now. So Hubi Kos, 2+ golds this summer in Singapore. I'm swimming it. All right. Hubi Kos is getting a new IM training partner in Texas, Baylor Nelson of Texas A&M. He spent 3 years in College Station. He announced he will be transferring to Texas, so just going up the road. A little ironic and funny that he was like Shane Casas 2.0 after Shane left A&M to go to Texas. Now Baylor Nelson leaving A&M to go to Texas. So he will rejoin his former Aggie teammate there. But he is 140 in the 200 IM, 337 in the 400 IM, and 132 in the 200 free. These are short course, obviously, times. But he should make a pretty significant impact in Austin. I'm curious, do you think Baylor Nelson will become an individual NCAA champion at Texas? He has 1 year of eligibility left. Brendan?
I'm undecided on this one. I mean, I think that the stiffest competition he'll face is from his Longhorn teammates, specifically, I think Rex Maurer. I might sink it. I think Rex has a little bit more experience under his belt than Baylor, and I think he's, just kind of more suited for the Texas training program. And I think he's already proven that he can do it. So I'm going to sink it, but also would not be surprised. Baylor is a supreme talent. He's a previous World Championships team member, and he's definitely someone that is perfectly built for the Texas training program.
Sophie?
Yeah, I'm going to think this one as well. And that's no disrespect to him. I hope this move works out for him and he's able to be at his best. But even with the massive amount of turnover that we're going to see in the men's NCAA field next year, I still think that there are people in each of his 3 events. For the last 2 years, he's been 2 IM, 4 IM, 200 breast. And I think that there's still people in those fields that I would pick to win those events over him. In IMs, Maurer, Kos, McDonald, Orlando are all going to be in either the 200 IM or the 400 IM. In some ways, the 200 breast might be his best bet. And we've seen that Bowman can develop breaststrokers, so maybe he'll surprise all of us. But even there, he's got his teammate German Prey, who will be pushing for that title as well. And all the other freshmen who were just sneaking into that final, who will be the big guns next year.
Yeah, he doesn't have an easy time, certainly, or an easy path, I guess, to winning an NCAA individual title. And most of his biggest competition, will be on his now new team. But yeah, he was Baylor Nelson, a former #1 recruit on SwimSwam. Yeah, best swimmer in his class. He has a lot of talent, and he has developed at Texas A&M. I'll be really interested to see how midseason goes for him next year. I mean, we saw Rex Maurer come in to Texas, and after 3 or 4 months of Bowman training, he went 404 in the 500 free and 340 in the 400 IM. Something really fast. Sorry, 334 in the 400 IM. So it'll be really interesting to see how Baylor's midseason shapes up, but I gotta fall in line here. I'm optimistic normally, but with only 1 year, I'm gonna sink it. I think he'll do great things at Texas, but yeah, Rex Maurer, Nate German Prey, they've already been through this system. They know what's up. Rex Maurer, 2-time NCAA champion. It's just hard to see. And Hubi Kos is coming back next year as well in that 200 IM. So I don't think it's going to happen, but time will tell. Last up today on Sink or Swim, as we mentioned, stroke 50s are in for LA 2028 Olympic Games. Do you think that no one was more excited about this than Sarah Sjostrom and Adam Peaty? They made very public posts saying how excited they were and saying that their Olympic fire is now burning once again. Sarah Sjostrom, the world record holder in the women's 50 fly, Peaty, the world record holder in the men's 50 breast. Do you think either of them will win gold in 2028? Sophie?
Yeah, Sjostrom's here, so this is an easy swim for me. I would have swum this question even if you'd asked it without the stroke 50s being added, just because of her. I think Peaty is still an open question, but she's just so far ahead of the field in the 50 fly and the 50 free that, she's got a baby on the way. But even with that and all the time that it's going to take to, build up to LA 2028, I still think she's going to win gold.
Brandon?
I'm going to swim as well. Sarah Sjostrom's kind of on the short list of athletes you never, ever bet against. She's come through time and time again. And honestly, I feel good about Peaty returning to form in the 50 breast. He might just go exclusively all in on the 50 breast and kind of, put his bread and butter, the 100 breaststroke aside. But I feel good about him getting a medal and maybe even winning.
Well, I'm going to bet against her. I think I'm going to sink it. Gretchen Walsh is coming on as a long course talent. 3 years is such a long time. We've seen multiple women give birth and then go on to win medals on international stages. So I'm not doubting Sjostrom's abilities. I am doubting that someone else will not rise up in the next 3 years, and, have an Olympic moment and beat Sarah Sjostrom. She has been dominant in these sprints for certainly the last 5 years, really the last 10 years. I mean, the 50 fly the last 10 plus years, and the 50 free certainly since she broke that world record in 2017. But I just don't think it's going to last forever. And same with Adam Peaty. His motivation has kind of been wavering. I'm sure this gives him a boost, and I'm sure this gives he's feeling good about that 50 breast. But we saw Chen Haiying get close to his world record a couple of years ago. I just think 3 years is a long time for people to come up and surprise us, and so I'm going with Father Time on this one. But he will tell. So we will see. That's our breakdown for today. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you next time.